Is it this? It's this button, right?
It's the only button.
All right. Well, there's yeah. We're recording.
All right.
All right.
What's up, Waffles? I'm Aaron.
I'm Sam.
Welcome back to another episode of There We Are Then. Today, we're going to be kind of flipping it up a little bit and interviewing each other. I know we did our introduction episode, but we got some
Feedback.
and, you guys asked to know more about us, so we figured we would turn it into a interview where we go back and forth. So that's what today's episode is. I hope you enjoy it. Not a whole lot of help content here today.
More how we got here to There We Are Then.
Yep. So, you want to get us started, or?
Yeah. So, effectively, we kind of went over our backgrounds before, but hey, Aaron, give me a little bit of your background, kind of where you started, what kind of led you to the path of joining the service, and then kind of through that.
Sure. So I was born at Fort Bliss, William Beaumont Army Hospital. Fun fact about that, the doctor who delivered me ended up being the Surgeon General.
For the whole country? Or for the Army?
The Army.
Ah.
And he's the one who got forced into retirement with the scandal at the hospital. Yep. So, what's up, Kevin Kiley? I see you. That dude he's old now, right? He was a young resident. So, that's where I started, Fort Bliss, Texas. My dad was an MP. And after he got out of the Army, he and my mom moved back to Valparaiso, where she's from. And he became a local law enforcement officer. They split up. My mom really liked to get married.
Loved love.
She loved love, right? Or whatever. However that works for you, whatever. So when she left my dad, it was a horrible breakup. And I just got to play the middle of that for 9 years. Until, my mom finally got my dad to break and sign over adoption rights to my stepdad. In between there, I have a brother. She was married again. I have 2 brothers and 2 sisters. My sisters are from my dad and stepmom. And I wasn't a part of their lives growing up until later. We were adults. I grew up with my younger brothers. I've got one who's 6 years younger than me, and one that's 11 years younger than me. The one who's 11 years younger than me, his dad is the one that adopted me. So he's my father on paper. But after 18, there really wasn't any relationship there. Moved around a lot. I've lived all over the Midwest. We ended up in Utah for a couple of years while my stepdad finished his MBA at BYU. It's where I got to learn to love the mountains. It is amazing. I love the Rockies. I love the Tetons because I had that experience growing up. I would move back there in a heartbeat. Ended up in Cincinnati. Procter & Gamble brought us to Cincinnati, and that's where I went to high school. And I played soccer. I was in the orchestra. I played violin from 3rd grade all the way through high school. And yeah, I left for the Army. I got married. I got divorced. We had a kid, lost a child. Met my most recent wife, and we were together for 23 years. Throughout that time, there was a lot of, I love you, come here, I hate you, get away. And it was never a really stable relationship for 23 years. And that, plays a role too. I grew up with, the fear that I would lose my mother. And that was planted. Anytime I went to visitation with my dad, it was, here's the phone numbers just in case he kidnaps you. Make sure you always have this suitcase with you. Make sure you've always got this piece of paper with you. Make sure you've always got this. Always know where the church is. Always know where the police are.
How old were you when that started?
4.
I would imagine, and I know you grew up that way, but I would imagine looking back on it now, that's a pretty early age to be experiencing something that most people would consider very traumatic.
Right? But that was just normal life.
It was normal, but the effect on you, what do you think the effect on you of having that responsibility placed on you, this idea that your mom could be taken from you by your father?
It made me distant from my father, right? I never wanted to go for visitation with my father. I never wanted to, there was always a battle. And it always ended up being a great weekend, right? I always had a good, relaxing time at my dad's, although it was veiled in this stress, right? So I was still in a loving environment that I had all the care in the world, but, there was still that overlying stress. So that stayed with me. I mean, it stays with me today.
And that's kind of what I was getting at. What kind of an impact do you think that had on your friendships, your relationships in general, and then on your everyday life, like school? How did you do in school?
I was always, I was smart enough to do the work. I just never wanted to do the work. A lot of it was, I was not in a school really longer than 2 years until we moved to Ohio.
To Cincinnati.
And, I went through 6th grade through 12th grade in the same schools. But until 6th grade, I went to kindergarten at one school. I went to 1st grade at another school, 2nd at another school, 3rd, 4th at another school, 5th at another school, and then Utah, and then 6th out there, and finished 6th in Cincinnati.
And then this whole time, there's this, anytime you're going to your dad's, your biological father's.
My dad was out of my life after the age of 9.
Okay.
I didn't have any relationship with my dad until I was a senior in high school, and I had come home from play practice to my mom on the phone with somebody, and she was like, well, I'm sure he's probably not going to want to talk to you, but here you go. This is your grandma. You haven't talked to them in a really long time. Do you want to talk to him? And I jumped at the chance. And that started or restarted my relationship with my dad. But I was already, on the precipice of
adulthood,
manhood, right? I hadn't made the choice to join the military, but I had been looking at it. I was doing the ROTC paperwork and getting stuff like that in line so that I could go that route after high school and get the education and then go as an officer. That didn't work out for me, so I enlisted. And I honestly, it couldn't have been any other way. You know, if I'd have been an officer right off the bat, I don't think I would have been a good officer. I probably would have been a fine officer, but being enlisted made that future even more possible and even more bright, right?
Okay.
Because I learned how, you know, I lived as an enlisted person and how to treat people and what I liked in leadership and what I didn't like in leadership. But I stayed for 16 years. So I must have enjoyed it to some point, you know. It wasn't all bad.
There's there
was
had
all-
to be something good in there.
It was all, yeah, right?
And I would say that most likely, just based off of my own experiences, it's mostly good.
Yeah.
There's a lot more good than negative. The issue that we tend to run into is that the negative things are enormous
Yes.
and they are long lasting. So,
Especially with our generation of service members.
yeah, the late Gen X, elder millennials,
Yep.
the Zennials as they were, for sure. So school, got through, did good enough to get by.
Yep.
All right. How were you in athletics and extracurriculars? You mentioned playing the violin and then playing soccer.
That was always a good thing, right? Almost always a good thing. Anytime I was playing soccer was just, you know, that gave me an outlet. Yeah, and music. I was indoctrinated with music at a really young age. Music has always been, like, I almost say it's part of my soul. Because I always turn to music. I've always turned to music in, like, times of need or happiness or sadness or joy or whatever. It's always been music. From a young age, you know, I was always banging on something. So I got a drum set. Right?
I like that.
Quit beating the pans with butter knives. Here's a little solid gold drum set.
Here's a kit. Start banging on that.
Right? And that was great, but I was too young. I was way too young. And then we got a piano. We always had a piano growing up. And I think that was more because my mom always wanted to learn the piano and never really did. So, I got to learn. So there was always a piano in the house. And then the violin just happened because I was too small to play the double bass or a cello. That didn't last very long.
No, I was going to say, you're not a small fella.
I grew right into those things real quick, but I was still in the violin. So, yeah.
I mean, it could have been the viola.
The viola was too big when I was starting. I started in like a 3/4 violin, right?
All right, so we've got the early life down. Military career, we've touched on that, right? 16 years. You started out where? Where did you go through boot camp? And then where?
So I started with the artillery, which meant I went to Fort Sill, Oklahoma. That's where I did basic. That's where I did AIT. And the wonderful
For those that don't know, AIT is?
advanced individual training. That's your secondary school. That's where you learn your skill. For me, that was Fort Observer. I was a 13 Fox fire support specialist. The best way to describe that would be to say like a sniper, but instead of pulling the trigger myself, It was artillery or close air support or naval gunfire or whatever the hell the indirect munition was. So make it die, make it all die right now, please, and thank you.
And then from there, you did that for how long?
I did that for 4 years, and then I became an MP. Went to the reserves in Cincinnati and joined a military police unit in Cincinnati.
What was the reason for the shift in the reserves?
So the reason for the shift was I had gone from a light infantry unit to a heavy mech unit in the Guard. And it did not sit well with me. It wasn't what I wanted to do. It wasn't anywhere near what I liked. And I was going into law enforcement, or trying to go into law enforcement. So
In the civilian side.
In the civilian
side, you were trying to become a law enforcement officer. So
MP tracked, and the unit was 15 minutes from my house. So
Okay.
I became an MP.
all right, so you've now segued out of active duty. You did a brief stint with the National Guard in Cincinnati
And
or
no,
in
it was in
Ohio,
Columbus.
in
Yeah.
Ohio. Then you realized, not for me, going into the reserves.
Transferred into the
Transferred
reserves.
into the reserves. All this time, though, you are reintegrating into civilian life, doing the 1 weekend a month, 2 weeks a year.
Trying to.
Yep.
Right?
Trying to make that jump.
Navigating a divorce.
First
divorce.
Okay.
Navigating, becoming a civilian, getting divorced, and trying to find my path. Which, when you're young, everybody's trying to find their path. I was 23 years old, 24 years old.
Yeah, your prefrontal cortex hadn't even finished developing.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep. So, college. So I went back to school as soon as I got out of the Army, pretty much.
How did that go? Transitioning to school.
So that was insane, because I was 25 years old, so I'm not that far away from the current age of college kids.
That 18 to 22.
18 to 22, right? But I'm 25, and I've done the Army for 5 years by now. And it made college really interesting, really different, because there's the kids who are there and they're partying. And, I went to college after high school and failed out miserably because, it's a party. And it's not my dime. I'm partying and going to school and getting like D's. Right? So the parents were like, nah, you're going to have to pay for it yourself. And so I joined the Army. And then, used that benefit on the backside.
The GI Bill.
The GI Bill.
Post 9/11.
Nope.
Montgomery.
I started it, and then 6 months later, we had 9/11. Right?
Okay, so this is pre 9/11.
This is pre 9/11.
Okay.
So we hadn't hit anything yet. We were still, in a peacetime, and it wasn't serious. It was just something you done on the weekends, 1 weekend a month, 2 weeks a year, and have a good time doing it.
Helps you stay in shape and gives you decent insurance.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So when you went back to school, did you do better?
Oh, I smoked it, right? Because I was focused. I knew why I was there, and I wasn't there to waste any more time. I had, you get that reset of this is real life, and then you come back to the civilian world, and you're better prepared for it. I know privates and lower enlisted, they get that stupid factor in there, but they're actually fully functioning adults for the most part.
Especially after they get out, because they're forced, while the military is kindergarten for adults. That's what I've always called it. It's kindergarten for adults. Go here at this time. Do this at this time. Go to bed at this time. Rinse, wash, repeat, right? You have that routine. but it also instills into you the importance of that routine. It instills into you the importance of discipline, of completing the tasks that are ahead of you. There are a ton of benefits.
Yep.
I feel like most people know that, and I know that we will expound on the benefits of joining the service
Right.
pretty much at any age that you're able to. However, a large part of our podcast is us dealing with issues that we picked up during our times of service, whether that's military or civilian side, doing law enforcement, first responder, medical, fire, anything. And this is for anyone. It's not just veterans. It's not just first responders. It's not. But everybody picks up, to use your lingo, everybody picks up shit along the way.
Yep.
And no matter how hard you try, without the right help, you're going to carry that shit with you because it's stuck on you. So anyway, we're digressing here.
Yeah,
but
no, absolutely. So I got married again. She had a young son.
You met her while you were going to college, or you met her?
I met her on a blind date.
Okay.
My mother set me up on a blind date for my birthday, right? And I go to pick her up, and there's this stunning chick with a great kid. And we hit it off, we dated, and it moved way too fast, right?
You got hit by lightning.
I got hit by lightning.
Okay.
Yep. And we were married within a year later. I mean, we were living together within a couple of months. And it was just rocky, because we jumped so far into the deep end together so quick, so young, that, we tried. It lasted 23 years.
I would say you gave a hell of an effort.
Right. Now, that's not 23 years all together, because, we separated for 8 months here. We separated for a couple of years here. We separated for a couple of years here. And so all told, it's not 23 years, but for 23 years, she's been a part of my life, right? She's the mother of my children. She's, been there. In fact, she's the one that called 911 the day that I was going to hurt myself, right? The day I was going to take my life, she's the one that called 911.
So I'm very interested in the story you're telling about leading up to that, but that is a pivotal moment in your life when you had made the decision to hurt yourself, to end your life. That's what you had decided, right?
Yeah.
So was that a split decision, or was that something that just hit you one day, or had this been something that has been building?
Oh, this is something that had been building for a while. I think I said in our introduction episode that I am intimately familiar with the flavor of every gun barrel that I own. So this wasn't the first time. It was just the last time.
This was when you had finally decided you'd committed.
Yep.
Okay, so take me through, if you can, and I don't want you, if we hit anything that is going to be problematic.
I'm solid.
Okay.
I've talked enough about it now that sometimes it gets me, and that's okay. It's usually the moment, but every time I tell it, I help somebody else, right? And that alone is enough to be like, let's go. Let's talk about this.
All right.
Yeah.
So when can you remember that thought, that first thought, or the ideation, right? That whole suicidal ideation. Maybe it would be better if I wasn't here. Whatever the format it came to you in. Do you remember?
I've always felt like, I don't deserve to be here. I don't belong here, I shouldn't be here. And that is from childhood all the way up until currently. It's still something that I struggle with, right? I mean, as a kid, I was never somewhere permanent, right? So I never, until I was 12, I never had a friendship that lasted longer than 2 years. So you come and go out of these groups, these tribes that are already forming and, going, and then you dip out. And that just leaves you, right?
You have no roots.
Yeah, I had no roots. Not something that, I mean, it's been a struggle. Not having roots has been a blessing and a curse, right? Because I don't mind being here or there or wherever as long as I'm with the people that I care about. But the ideation had been there for a long time. Just you lock it away and it goes away. There were times when I was a teenager that, be better off if I wasn't here, right? I'm just so difficult for my parents. I'm so difficult for this. I'm not good in school. I'm not good at this. The typical teenage stuff. But for me, the way that I grew up, it just echoed like thunder.
So it was always a loud presence.
It was always a loud presence. And it went away, right? For a really long time. The military, law enforcement, police, fire, working for GE, I had those groups that it wasn't as loud. But it was still there, hence, I'm going to try it. I'm going to try it. I'm going to try it. And never being able to pull the trigger, right?
But making plans.
Making plans, right? Someday it's probably going to have to come to this. Someday it's probably going to have to come to this. This place is going to be better without me, no matter what, right? There is nothing that I can see with a good outcome where I am involved. I had a rocky marriage. I failed in one marriage. I failed in a second marriage. I've buried 2 children because Emily and I lost a child too in 2007. It's why I did not deploy, which,
has
its own flavor of shit to it.
Yeah.
But after I left GE, and I had been isolating, and then when we moved up here to northern Michigan, I had gotten what I wanted. Right, I had gotten the chance to be completely isolated, and I thought being back with Emily and my family all together that it would be good, and it was, but not enough. Right, I still wasn't good enough. I still wasn't. I was still a piece of shit. Still like not worthy of anything, and I had no idea that for like a week or 2 prior, my oldest 2 kids would come and check on me before they left to make sure I was still alive.
So this is something that your family could see.
Oh, it's absolutely. I was not hiding it well.
Were they?
I was trying, but I just was not hiding it well.
Were they expressing concern? Were they talking to you about it? Were they
Not so much.
intervening before the intervention?
No.
Okay.
No, really. It had come to the point where Emily and I were like, this is just not working. I gotta go. And I'm done. I'm leaving. And so I made the plan. I picked out my lakes and I loaded my go bag, camping stuff. Just I might disappear for a couple of days, or I'm bouncing and I'm going back to Cincinnati, or I'm done and I've got to go, right? Wasn't going anywhere, but I made the decision, and I packed my bag the night before and got everything ready. And then she took the kids to work and left me with the youngest, and she was off in her room playing, and I was just, I loaded the car with everything that I needed. I threw my gun in my bag and tucked it all in the car, and I was waiting for her to get home so that I could leave.
And
when she got home, a massive argument ensued, right? Because where are you going? What are you going to do? What is this? What is that? What? Just get the fuck out of my way and let me out the door.
you had made a decision.
I had made the decision. Just, I'm leaving. We're done. I'm done. And you'll never see me again.
Did she know?
She had to have. She had to have.
You guys haven't talked about it?
I mean, we have, right? I mean, I know now that I was not hiding it well. She's the one that told me that the kids were checking on me to make sure that I was alive.
Okay.
And I was completely blind and oblivious to that. The hands trying to lift me, and it just didn't work. So, it got to the point, and we were arguing, and she knows how to push every button that I have, right? And she was pushing them intentionally. And I realize it now at the time, but she was trying to get me to admit that I was going to hurt myself. And as soon as I even uttered it, she dialed 911. And that set into effect a sequence of events that, they were in my control, but then they became out of my control, right? Once you call 911 for a suicide call, somebody's going to jail.
100%.
Somebody's going to jail.
And it's the way I was trained, what I know and what you know, it's the person that has the issue. And that person is going to go to jail, whether that's regular jail or grippy sock jail.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to jail.
Correct.
So that there is a control.
Correct.
So that you cannot succeed at what you are trying to do. So yeah.
Correct. And I wasn't having that, right? So it's not long before when you call 911 for a suicide attempt, and it's somebody that's a veteran or first responder or any of that ilk, right? One thing that needs to change about law enforcement is that they are dealing with somebody that knows exactly what their tactics are. They are you. You are battling yourself, right? So I knew every step up the continuum he took, I could take that step comfortably, right? And it got to the point of, well, we're done with this. You're going with us. And the fuck I am, right? So I had my knife in my pocket, and I pulled it out, right? And the initial thought was, I produce a knife, I can go to my neck with it, and I'm still going to get my goal. But then I got that secondary option. Right, you pull a knife, you're automatically looking down the barrel of 6 automatic revolvers, or automatics, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And I picked a target. I knew I'm scanning. I'm doing everything that you're doing, the same as you, right? Just the same as you. And I knew the weak link was this female deputy who Everybody else had their fingers on their rails, and she was the only one that had her finger on the trigger. And you could see that, there was pressure forming. So if I'm going to go, I kick this chair that I had blockaded myself with at the one cop, and I go after her.
You know you're getting shot.
I know I'm getting shot. Win for me, loss for you, right? So, not a good look. What I missed was the officer on my flanks transitioning to tasers. And then, I lit up like a Christmas tree.
They both get you.
One got me, and because of the distance, he didn't get a good spread. And I started to go to cut the wires. I've been tased, bro. I know how to deal with it, right? Your tactics, I know. I've done them, right? I knew it was a bad spread, so I went to go cut them. And that's when this guy got me. And I don't know if you've ever been tased. I've been tased multiple times because I've had to carry the damn things. But when they're yelling, drop the knife, you can't. Until that second one hit, and then it just vibrated out of my hand. I was dogpiled by 6 officers, right? I ended up in cuffs, and the lead officer decided that the local hospital's mental facility was insufficient because he thought that they released patients unreadily, right? So instead of going to
Grippy sock jail.
a grippy sock jail, I went to regular jail, right? Where you get stripped naked, you get to put on the big blanket, and you get put in the glass fishbowl where everybody can see you, and you're watched. And I was there for 2 days. That was really great for my mental health at that point in time.
For those of you that can't read sarcasm, there was a heavy, heavy dose of sarcasm there.
However, while I was there, I had 2 deputies in there cry with me, right? Because one had been at almost the same point. And he was a Marine, deployed, dealing with PTSD. And he's like,
I know you.
Right? We cried together. Yeah. And, I left there and went to Grippy Sock jail.
Yeah.
And I had to make a decision then on whether I was going to do this or just be done with life and be a drag. And I chose to not be a drag and started doing the work there. Never missed a class, never missed a session, never missed a chance to interact, right? And felt the hands,
When you say felt the hands, can you elaborate on that a little bit?
Yeah, so when you're at the bottom and it's dark and you're digging, you're fighting everything around you. So the things that are touching you, you're trying to cut off because it's just trying to hurt you. Some of those are hands of people trying to lift you up, right? And it hurts. Fuck.
It's all right, man. We can.
No, we're good. Okay. So the hands are the ones you can't see. They're there. And as soon as you let them, you're going.
You're going up.
You're going up. never to go there again. And it's been 4 really long, hard years. But here the fuck I am. Right? Here I am. And, man, my kids and I don't get along all the time, but I'm grateful for it. I don't get to see my kid every day, but I can. Yeah. Suicide is not the option ever. So if you're there, don't reach out, ask us, reach out to somebody, but you're not alone. I wasn't alone. And I'm here to talk about it. And that's why I started this, right? That's why I came to you and was like, let's do this. And you were like, let's fucking do this. Here
Absolutely.
we are.
There we are then.
There we are then.
And that's, thank you for
Yeah.
sharing that. I know that can be hard, clearly. There's still a lot of emotion there, and I feel like that's probably going to be for the rest of your life. And
But I get to feel it.
you get to be here for it. I can't tell you how grateful I am that your former partner, your former spouse, made that call. Because without that, I would never have gotten to know you. I would have never gotten to have someone that I can go to, that I can talk to, right, about things that I'm going through. And so I love you, bro. Like,
And it's the same. I love you too.
I know. Right? Like and I'm grateful that they had 2 sheriff's deputies who chose, to go down, to use their training to go back down their use of force continuum to ensure that you were here, because I'm only guessing that they probably recognized that you were not
I don't know.
in a good state. I'm doing the thing that we all do. I'm putting myself in someone's shoes. I know that that's a decision that I would have made
Yep.
to mitigate, somebody in, because that's someone in distress. That's someone begging for help.
Yep.
That's not someone who is, you were a danger to yourself.
And others.
Eh.
And others, right? If I wouldn't have hesitated half a beat, I could have hurt that officer, right?
Yeah.
I don't want that.
So,
I mean, not always. Sometimes, but not always.
So, yeah, that's I'm unbelievably grateful that you were unsuccessful. The way I know anybody else who is in that situation, I'm going to tell you, as somebody who is on the outside of that situation, how grateful people are going to be that are around you, that you're still there. Remember, and this is a question I have for you, if you feel comfortable answering it.
Yeah.
If somebody would have directly asked you, not tried to push buttons the way your former spouse did, but straight up said to you, hey, are you thinking about hurting yourself or hurting somebody else?
Not a chance.
You wouldn't have responded?
I would have said not a chance.
Oh, you would have said, there's no way.
There's no way.
And if they pressed you on it, like,
There's no way.
I'm just telling you what I'm seeing. Like, these are the signs. Like, you are showing me.
No, I'm good. I'm fine. I'm just going through some shit.
Can we get you somebody to talk to?
Right? No, I already am talking to somebody. I'm doing the work.
Yeah, no, let's call them right now. Let's get somebody on the phone. I'm doing that for a little bit of role play,
Oh, yeah.
because that is, if you are on the outside and you're seeing somebody go down that path, be intrusive.
Be very intrusive.
That is,
Push their buttons.
you can,
Get them angry. Get them emotional. Get them to the point where they will actually. She has the ability to get me so flustered that I don't think cop brain. I don't think military brain. I think complete chaos.
You're in the amygdala at that point.
Absolutely, right?
So you are in survival mode.
Oh shit, did I just say that? Fuck, what did I just say?
Yeah.
Yep.
So that's important. Be intrusive.
Yep.
Press them relentlessly if you have to. I will tell you this, it may feel like you are destroying a friendship, destroying a relationship. The thing to remember is you're very likely saving a life. And with that, it's ask, care, escort, right? That's the acronym we had. Military loves acronyms.
Absolutely.
ACE, ask, care, escort. Ask is not just, hey, are you thinking about hurting yourself or others? Because Aaron gave you the response that you're going to get. You got to be intrusive. You've got to be.
If you're a leader, step up, right? It's one of those. If you see that and you're questioning,
if you have a thought,
that's if you're in the service or adjacent, like we were, and you see somebody going down that path, do not hesitate to be like, all right, dude, well, I don't think you're okay, so I'm going to get this person involved, right?
Yep.
Get them the help that they don't think they need. They may just, if somebody would have called the chaplain for the firehouse, probably would have been like, yeah, it's bad. Right?
And I'm just trying to...
Because you don't lie to the chaplain. You go to hell for that shit.
Same in the military, right? Like, that's why I'm making this point. I'm trying to drive this home for everybody else, right? For all of you out there, don't just ask once. And I know it's uncomfortable. I know it can feel terrible. But you might be their last stop before they do something irrevocable. So I'm driving that home. I know.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And just to finalize on that, right? Because I wasn't successful.
Thank God. Or
whomever,
the
whatever.
pasta monster in the sky, or whatever.
Whatever.
Thank you to the world, to the universe that you're still here.
I can help. Right? That's what this is about. That's what, the backside of suicide's weird. Right? You kind of break the veil a little bit and you can start to see, I see people struggling all the time. And I just want to be like, if you see me out and about, give me a hug. If you want a hug, I give you a hug. That's a true heart to heart, right? I'll ask customers, like, you okay? Do you need a hug? I'll be like, you need a hug? Yeah. Okay, let's do this, right? But yeah, I'm here, and it must be to do something. And the only thing I can think of is to help others not ever get to the point that I did. This is big to me, right? Mine says 21 a day, and it's got the day that I tried. Inside, even though we're not together, it's got her and everybody that I need to remember every fucking day, right? There's not enough space on the back of this thing for everybody I need to remember every day. But I'm here. So I'm here. Let's go. If you felt like this, let us know. Talk about it in the comments. Let us reach out. Just don't be silent.
You don't have to suffer in silence. You don't have to be...
It's not
alone.
all right. It's not fine.
No, and it's okay to not be all right. And it's okay to ask for help. And I know for a lot of us, people who lived in...
It's not okay to be not okay.
Yeah.
And I had a fire chief come through the other day, and we were talking about the podcast, and he's like, I've been in the fire service for 34 years, and it's really only been in the last 10 that we have started to see the need to drive mental health care for firemen's and policemen's, and what has happened in that time frame is good, but it is far away from being.
It's not. I wouldn't even consider it adequate.
Nope.
There are steps in the right direction, but we're not running. We might be crawling.
Yes, low crawling.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, if for those of you that have children, when I say this, you'll understand. We might even be scooching. Not quite crawling.
We need to pick up that pace because when you think about it, that service, the military, you don't get touched by, but you get touched by police, fire, medical every day of your life, right? If you've got an officer who's having a bad day at home, who's having a bad week, that leads to bad things, right? And mental health, it's easier than we think, right? It's just caring about each other and caring about yourself, and doing more for others because they matter. It's something we got to drive far and away.
The mentality of when you come in here and you put on your uniform, you leave your problems at the door. That's
a lie.
It was bullshit before. It's bullshit now. It'll be bullshit forever. Asking for help is not weakness. Needing help is not a weakness. I have no other way to say it. I wish I did.
There is no other way to say it. You're not weak. You are stronger than you ever know. Just think about how hard you're working at the bottom, right?
How much energy and strength it takes.
If we could lift you up, if we could be those hands and pull you up, your amount of strength will exponentially grow, right? I am stronger because of everybody around me. I'm weak by myself. Intrusive thoughts come in, right? But I'm not weak when I'm here. I'm not weak when I'm with you. I'm not weak when I'm with people. And that's because we lift each other up. We give each other shit. We don't let each other, or we try and find out what's going on with each other to try and help. And that's new, I feel. That's some center millennial, post millennial stuff that is just necessary for the world. But yeah.
Absolutely. I think that it's a long time coming, and I think that the old way of dealing with this, the dark humor, the, being there for you, the guys in the firehouse on your shift, or your partner in a squad car, or the guys on my boat, or the guys on my duty crew, or the guys on my ship, right? Like any of those, but you never directly talked about it. You always danced around it with humor, and your goal was to make each other laugh, to find a way to make each other laugh. And the worse stuff you see, the darker it sounds. And being on the outside now and thinking about the things that I've said and done, and kind of talking with some of the people that I know that are still in, the being on the outside and removed for just the limited time I've been out, I'll hear some things and I'm like, wow, wow, I sounded like that. Like, I'm still laughing because I get it, but I don't want to think like that and talk like that. So, use dark humor in the moment. I get it, because that's got to help get you through those moments. But when you're done,
put the dark humor away and actually talk about it. I can think of so many times where we got back from a call and we probably should have called the critical stress incident debrief team, right? It probably would have been a good thing. It probably would have been a good idea. We don't need it. We're stronger than that. We're not broken. This isn't going to affect us.
we're good.
We're good to go until it really comes back to bite you in the ass.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's my story.
I
And I'm
appreciate
sticking
you
to
sharing.
it.
Appreciate you sharing that part of your life and your story.
It's your turn.
My turn.
Yeah, dude.
All right.
Tell me how Sam grew up and how you became Big Sam.
Well, so I was born in Santa Barbara, California, in Cottage Hospital. Spent most of my life growing up in LA. My dad was an immigrant from Lebanon. My mom was an immigrant.
Wait, you're an Arab? Sorry.
All right. I was the ultimate sleeper cell. They even gave me armory codes. No. Sorry. My mom was an immigrant to California from the far off land of Wisconsin. I grew up pretty much with my mom's family. Did not get to meet a lot of my dad's family. So I had a total of 3 younger sisters. I was the firstborn of a firstborn of a firstborn. So a lot of type A in there. A lot. As a young Sam, my first sister was born. A couple of years later, my second sister was born, and unfortunately, she passed away while still an infant. And that left an indelible mark on me. My memories of it are...
How old were you?
Oh, man. This was 1984. I was 5 years old. My memories of that are waking up to the sound of a woman screaming, like shrieking. And it wasn't coming from the apartment we lived in. At this point, we had moved down to the greater Los Angeles area. And what I remember is our neighbor in the apartment complex came over and was taking care of me that morning. What had happened was my father had gone back to the Middle East to bury his mother. So he was gone. The conflict that was occurring over there, the Civil War, had gotten him trapped. My mom woke up, went to go get my infant sister, and she was blue. And apparently she ran out of the house, ran until she couldn't run anymore, dropped and started screaming. And I never saw my sister after she passed. I never got to, do any of that, but I know, looking back on it, that left an indelible mark on me. My mom had, as anyone who loses a child, had a hard time coming back, especially because, for the most part, she was alone when it happened, and in the immediate aftermath. And then she became hyper vigilant, hyper protective of my sister and I. And then a couple of years later, my third sister was born, and she had a bit of a heart issue. So that just ratcheted that up. So I grew up in a very high-strung environment, which naturally comes to my mom's side of the family. We're all a little wired high strung, but that just took it to 11. So it was always a bit of a high stress environment. Not overt, but if you lived in it, it was there all the time. And again, looking back, it made me very vigilant, very, vigilant.
Prone to hypervigilance?
Yeah, definitely led to that.
The same, right?
That's why I was
totally led to hypervigilance, and that's why I was a bad cop, right? I just was hypervigilant from almost day one.
Yeah. So funnily enough, it had the opposite effect for me when I was in the Coast Guard. That hypervigilance made me exceptional.
Right.
At my job.
Yes.
Right. I didn't sleep well. There were a lot of things that went along with it, but I was, in my humble opinion, not humble at all. I was really, really, really good at my job.
I'm not saying I wasn't good at my job. That's not a good thing to be hypervigilant.
No. Situationally, it is, but not all the time. So I played sports from a young age, was involved in athletics a lot, got diagnosed with ADD at a young age. This was in the 80s. So, there was a limited number of options. You got Ritalin or you didn't. And I didn't. And I went through a lot of therapy. Almost kind of like occupational therapy to help me learn how to focus. So that had to be real hard on my parents because I was like, squirrel. Anyway.
Always.
All the time.
I still am.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Probably worse. Probably worse than I was back then because things are interesting.
Yeah. Absolutely. So school-wise, a lot like you. Always smart enough to pass all my tests, to do anything I needed to do, just didn't want to do the homework. Ever. And I would wait until the last possible second, very ADD, to do any reports or, so also adding stress to an already stressed household.
Let me guess, your report card said something to the effect of, like, it almost seems Sam is bored.
Yes.
It doesn't seem like Sam is challenged. It doesn't seem like,
A lot of wonderful kid, great to have in class, very engaged, doesn't do his homework.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. I got along with pretty much everyone. I think part of that was that sort of that stress, that need to not rock the boat that existed in our household. But it also led me down the path of service. That it definitely led me down that path of service. I wanted to be helpful. I wanted to be a person who helped. So, there I am growing up in the San Fernando Valley of, Los Angeles. I was in the Firefighter Explorers, again, heavily involved in athletics. That was a very important thing to me. My tribe, right? Going back to that was my tribe. I excelled at athletics. Well, again, I shouldn't say excelled. I feel like I was a pretty good athlete. And that when I put the appropriate effort into athletics, I was above average. From there, after school was done, I got hit by a car that caused athletics to end, and that was really my only motivation for doing well enough in school to pass. So that all sort of fell away, and then I floated around.
How old were you?
19. And I went from odd job to odd job, nothing ever really sticking. I think I talked about it a little bit before, but I was definitely depressed. I had lost I'd lost part of a tribe. I'd lost a mission. And so I floated that way until I was 23. So 4 years of just, almost, my mom was terrified I was going to become the dude from the Big Lebowski, right?
Right.
And I looking back, where I was, that was a life that I would have been really pleased with, right? Like I make enough to just do what I want to do, but never anything bigger than that. And then a good friend of mine joined the Marine Corps. I think I talked about this too. I came back, had a conversation with me about joining the Coast Guard, so I went and did it. And from there, I did over 21 years. And had a lot of unique experiences within the Coast Guard, things that really made me excel in some ways and fail spectacularly at things in others. And I feel like most people go through that in life. I just picked up a lot of trauma along the way that I thought I was good.
Right.
And
those failures in the service feel different. It's not just letting yourself down.
oh no,
It's letting everybody down.
yeah,
And you don't think that that's traumatic, but in a way, right? It does.
oh
It is the motivation to be exceptional next time.
yeah, to not be
To not be
a piece of shit,
right.
to not be a worthless piece of shit. And to, I mean, my upbringing was, pretty, overall, I feel like I had a really good childhood. I was a wild kid, not bad per se. I was wild.
You never got caught.
Oh no, we got caught sometimes. We got caught sometimes. Just wild, right? Like, you remember CKY and Land Speed and Jackass.
Yes.
That was us.
Yep.
We were Jackass. We did couch surfing. We would get trays from fast food restaurants and get towed behind cars going 25, 30 miles an hour, riding those trays like a skateboard. We would do, I mean, we were wild.
Yep.
Again, not
You were
bad.
kids.
Yeah. We were really kind of the last sort of iteration and generation of feral children.
Correct.
And so, overall, but I had roots. I lived in the same region of the San Fernando Valley from 1985, effectively until I joined the Coast Guard. And that was in 2002. So, I mean, I was almost there for 20 years, right? Like, I had a solid foundation. I had great parents who loved me unconditionally, no matter how big of an a-hole I was. Who, when I would mess up, they would let me know I messed up. And, they had no compunction about doling out appropriate consequences and to them, and I may not have liked them, but I also learned a healthy respect for authority within a hierarchy. And part of that also could have been the religious side of my upbringing, right? Like, while my father was an Arab, I grew up Catholic. My dad was fully supportive of that. Catholic school.
Was he religious at all?
Not Really, so the particular sect of religion that he was called Druze. And the Druze religion, this is a very poor comparison, but it's almost like Kabbalah to Judaism, right? It's sort of there's a bit of mysticism, there's a bit of almost like a grouping of beliefs that pull from Islam, pull a little bit from Christianity, pull from, Hindu or Buddhism, right? So like reincarnation is a big thing. And the goal is, so you're reincarnated until you lead the holy life. And then you have access to the holy texts when you've been determined to have achieved this level. And then after that life, you get to move on. That's when you're not reincarnated again, you move on. And I am doing a terrible job of explaining it. But it is also a religion that was heavily persecuted for hundreds of years, so they've learned to hide. And so part of that sort of their religious texts only being available to those who the religious leaders have determined are leading that holy life are open to them and only them. No one else really gets access to them. No one else gets to read them. Everything else is just oral. And it's in a way to protect their religion. So, and when my dad came to the United States, his goal in 1972 when he got here, as he explained to me, was to become an American. He did not want, that was his goal. He moved to America to become an American.
Do you know what that meant to him?
I do.
Okay.
I do. It was to incorporate into Western American society to the best of his ability, to let go of a lot of the things that, the almost tribalism that exists among the people of the country he's from, and to embrace the Western culture, to become American, to make it so that he would be indistinguishable to any other American. So he came here speaking next to no English, went to college, learned English, right? The man was, one of my role models, right? Like that I look up to, beyond just being your father and looking up to him in that way, looking at his life and what he came from, to what he achieved, and everything in between. He was in all aspects just remarkable, a remarkable human being, and big-hearted and caring and open, and he had a quality that I wish I could have, that I would love to get to. He could live in a moment and squeeze every drop of enjoyment out of it, and take that moment with him and just move on to the next moment. And when things got hard, he didn't stop moving. He didn't stop pushing and driving to for him to provide for his family, to provide a quality of life that he wished he could have had. Looking back on it, for someone who came from where he came from, I was unbelievably spoiled. Unbelievably spoiled. And, the love and affection that he had for his family. The man, he had cancer for 5 years before he passed away. During chemo, he went to work every day. He'd go to chemo and then he'd go back to work. His work ethic was, it's the American dream is what he wanted. That's what it was to be an American. The American dream that we hear about. To come here with nothing and become successful, right? My dad came here with nothing, lived with some family in West Virginia, went from there to upper middle class.
West Virginia.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right? And he was a remarkable man. And I recognized that while he was alive, but I don't know that I expressed it. And I don't know that I expressed my admiration for him enough. So that's something that I look back on, again, not necessarily with regret, but with I got to be better. Moving forward, did my time in the Coast Guard, had a lot of good times, had some bad times, and then hit 2017.
You did the whole hitch.
I did
the full 20.
I did 20 plus.
Yep.
Right. So over 21 years, I was active duty full time the whole time. So every 3 to 4 years, I transferred, moved, boot camp in Cape May, New Jersey, then went to Ketchikan, Alaska, then went to Grand Haven, Michigan. Then I went to Astoria, Oregon. Then I went to back to Michigan, went to Muskegon. From there, I went to Philadelphia. And then from Philadelphia, we transferred to Southern California, where I finished out my career. That was the totality of my career. Got to do, all the Coast Guard things. I was in what we call the surface fleet. So I wasn't in the Coast Guard helicopters. I didn't jump out of a helicopter and rescue people. I was not Ashton Kutcher, so to speak, right, from The Guardian. I worked primarily for the bulk of my career at small boat stations, and I did search and rescue, law enforcement, and first responder type things. So kind of a combination of EMT, police officer, and I'd go find you if you were lost in the ocean. Along with that, I did the counter narcotics mission. Did that on and off for a long time. My last duty station was in Southern California. It was a counter narcotics unit that we stood up, basically. It was kind of in its infancy and responding to the
growing threat of the cartels to our southern.
Yeah, to the southern border and how far north they were pushing compared to where they had been. So yeah, I did that. I mean, the Coast Guard's unique insofar as we're not a part of the Department of Defense. We fall under the Department of Homeland Security, and the reason for that is because of the law enforcement aspect of the mission that is done by the Coast Guard. If the Department of Defense does boardings on a foreign flagged vessel, it can be construed as an act of war. And so we fell into the Department of Transportation. That Department of Transportation when I first joined, DHS shortly after because of 9/11.
Right.
But yeah, so I, played domestic and international police. I played domestic and international EMT, emergency medical technician. So I did domestic and international search and rescue. And so the mission set was always, sort of varied. There was not a lot of, this is your one mission. So, every unit I was at, pretty much everybody was a jack of all trades, master of none, right? But oftentimes better than a master of one.
Well, what did you join the Coast Guard to do? What was your job when you joined the Coast Guard?
Well,
and then what did you end up doing? Because if I remember correctly, what you enlisted to do is not what you ended up doing.
True. So the impetus or the thing that I wanted to do when I joined was I wanted to be a rescue swimmer, the guy that jumps out of the helo, the guy that goes and does Ashton Kutcher things in The Guardian, right? Him and Kevin Costner.
That's a good movie.
Good movie.
It's a good movie.
To anybody, it's like any movie that's about a job you do. if you do that job, you watch it and you can find all the inconsistencies. But to everybody else, it's a good movie, right? Yeah.
Right.
So
Yeah, I'm that guy, right?
yeah,
The military movies, his uniform's wrong.
Yeah.
That's not how you do that.
Yeah.
That's what you backdraft. Let's go.
yeah, exactly,
Right?
right, yeah.
Yes.
So no, it's a good movie, but I discovered early in my career. So in the Coast Guard, when you join, you're not guaranteed what we call a rate, what other branches call an MOS, right? Most people come in as a non-rated person, which means that you are an E2, E3, which is lower enlisted rank, E1 during boot camp. And you kind of get to see what the Coast Guard's about. And then you can choose amongst the limited number of rates we have. And then you go, depending on the rate and the timeline, because now everyone goes to A school, which is your advanced training, right? Your technical training.
Yep.
But back when I joined, you could do, for selected rates, you could do something called striking, which was on-the-job training, what we call OJT. So when I first joined, I wanted to be a rescue swimmer, aviation survival technician. I learned early on that I get violently ill in helicopters. I do not do well in helicopters. Seas? Monster seas, no problem. Bering Sea, been there, done that, week. Not really. It's a bit of a nightmare, but never got seasick, right? Never got seasick. I've never been motion sick in a car, never been sick in a plane. You put me in a helo though, and it may as well be the vomit comet. So the two flights that I went on, both times I was vomiting so bad they turned the helo around and landed it and said, "Get off my bird." I was like, "Yeah, that checks out. I don't want to be on this bird. Yeah, go away. Never make me do this again." So I realized, hey, I can't be a aviation survival technician, because if I showed up to a search and rescue case, I would be worthless. You know, having motion sickness, for those that have never had it, you're so lucky, because I learned to be so empathetic to people who got seasick after I experienced that motion sickness. It is miserable. You are incapable of doing anything other than trying not to die. That's how it feels. Like, it is awful. You've never had motion sickness. You lucky SOB.
Not once.
That's good.
Not once.
I hope you never have it.
I've done aerobatic flight training. Nope.
Yeah.
Nope.
You've been out in 30 footers?
No.
Let's try that.
I would do that, right? My boat experience, like the roughest seas that I have had, was a dinner cruise in the Caribbean.
That sounds lovely.
And it was maybe like foot and a half.
1 to 2 feet.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's lovely.
Yeah.
There
were people getting sick.
That's a 3-hour cruise.
And I'm like, let's go!
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I decided, kind of like, well, I don't really want to do any of these other jobs. I don't want to do that. Part of that was probably me being salty. I'm just going to do out the rest of my time as a non-rate, and I'm going to get out after 4 years. Well, I was on a ship, and I was lucky. I had some great leadership on that ship, and I feel like one of them recognized in me that I had the potential. For those of you that don't know, potential means you've got all the skills, but you ain't done shit yet. That I had the potential to be really good at the rate that I ended up going. And so I had taken a test to advance from E2 to E3. And I'd kind of messed around with wanting to go a different rate, realized I couldn't do that rate. I would hate it. And that was what we called at the time TC, which was telecommunications specialist. You talk on the radio. Like, that's your job. Nowadays, they're called OSs, which is operations specialists. But the ship I was on, I kind of was working towards the qualification, and I realized, man, if I'm stuck in this CIC room or in this radio room for 4 hours straight by myself, I'll go crazy. I
Right.
can't do this job. So I was sort of floating around, and part of wanting to go TC at the time, I think, was it was quick. Get me off the ship that was only operating in the Bering Sea in Alaska. That's the only place I went on that ship. And the Bering Sea is miserable in the fall, winter, and most of spring. There are some beautiful days in the summer where it is glass. But yeah, I mean, monster storms, it's miserable. So I realized I couldn't do that. I'd taken that test to advance, and one of my leaders came up to me and was like, "Hey man, what rate are you going to go? You figured it out yet?" I said, "No." He said, "Why don't you go in there and take the BM3 test?" And BM stands for Babysitter of Men.
Bowel movement.
That too, but in the Coast Guard, it's bosun's mate, and bosun's mates are kind of jacks of all trades again. So they're the guys that you see driving the boats. If you ever watch, videos of the Coast Guard where they're in the boats in the surf and the boat can completely roll upside down and come back up, that's a bosun's mate. That's the guy driving that, or girl, however. But we also did other things, right? We were in charge of deck maintenance, in charge of, maintaining the exterior of the vessel that we were on, or the vessels that were attached to our unit, maintaining rescue and survival equipment. So a lot of the stuff that you need to be successful at doing search and rescue. And pretty much all of them become law enforcement officers. It's a requirement. For employment, you have to do law enforcement, and there's a lot of opportunity within that job to do a ton of different things. You can do aids to navigation maintenance, which means that you're taking care of buoys and day boards and all the stuff that helps people navigate in the waters and stay safe. You can do law enforcement. Within law enforcement, you can get specialized into counter narcotics, fisheries. Fisheries being monitoring the fisheries that we have in this country so that we don't overfish and thereby destroy one of our primary sources of food. You can get involved in ports, waterways, and coastal security. Again, protecting our assets, protecting the things that we need to protect in the country. So there were a lot of different things that I could do. And, for the most part, I got to be outside and have a good time. So I figured, why not? And so I took the test, passed it, and then did what we called striking. I did on-the-job training. And shortly after that, they opened what we called an A school for bosun's mate because they merged two rates together. They merged quartermasters, which are navigators, and bosun's mates together because they realized that bosun's mates can, the dumb deck apes can be taught how to do navigation. So yeah,
Quartermaster is navigation.
Quartermaster is navigation and like piloting. Yeah. So they handle chart work. They make sure that we're on track. They get us to where we're going, right? Because when you're in the middle of the ocean, there's no roads. So they can get us to where we're going. With the really good ones can do it with nothing but a stopwatch and a compass, right? Like, I mean, you've seen Red October, Hunt for Red October. Oh, yeah. That's a navigator.
Yeah.
Right? So that would be, in the Coast Guard, that would have been a quartermaster, but there it's an officer because it's, again, Navy. Navy's different than the Coast Guard. Much smaller branch. Tiny little branch by comparison. So
less officers.
Much less. Only 2 units I was at had officers. Everything else was a completely enlisted crew. So I did that. I struck, and then kind of took me down that path. And yeah, I did, like I said, law enforcement, counter narcotics. I did search and rescue. And the traumatic things that happened to me while I was in really were the search and rescue portion, right? Watching people jump off of bridges. There you are, there they go, wham. And then having to recover them. Responded to one of the largest maritime disasters that we've had in the last like 60 years, not involving an aircraft.
Edmund Fitzgerald.
No, no, that's a great song. No, it was a dive vessel off the coast of California, caught fire, and oh, I'm going to feel terrible now. I'll just go with 30 plus people burned to death while trapped on this boat. And we responded, got on scene, and then we're part of the recovery effort for, the time after that. So we were picking up body parts, and, the stuff like that is, that really left a mark on me. But at the time, right?
All good.
Thumbs up, good to go. My crew might need this. My people might need this. I'm good. I got this. And that's where I'm at, right? That started to have a negative impact on me. My spouse had been kind of talking to me for years about, you need to get help. You need to, you're not the same. You're not, like your reactions aren't good.
Right.
Right. And, looking at it, hindsight again, being 2020, perfect, right? She was spot on from the moment she started it. But I did not want to communicate to her the things that I had seen. I didn't want to take it home. It was ugly and nasty and made me feel bad, right? Like, and it's funny, not all of the traumatic things that I saw or dealt with really left that much of a mark. No, I know, like, I know that they're traumatic, but they're not something that I look at and I have a negative feeling about.
Right, yeah.
Right, I'm like, man, that sucks. I wish I didn't have to see that.
Yes,
but
yes.
there wasn't this really negative feeling about it. There are a couple. One of them was a young girl got swept off a pier, and I knew where she was. I knew, based off of my knowledge of my area of responsibility, I knew where she was. And I didn't tell my command center to kick rocks and go to where I knew she was. I let myself be controlled by the hierarchy, the rank structure, even though I knew I didn't have to, right? The position of the guy driving the boat is unique in the military because there's only two people who can tell me what to do. My officer in charge, the person in charge of my unit, or the XO.
Right.
Doesn't matter if the admiral, it doesn't matter if the commandant of the Coast Guard got on the radio and told me to do something. I didn't have to listen. And that's according to the rules and regulations, Coast Guard rules and regs. Mm-hmm. So there's another option, but it's a wild outlier that never would happen. And really all they could do is relieve you of your responsibility. It's not like they're going to take over driving. And I knew all of that, and I still didn't go to where I knew she was going to be. And sure enough, about 40 minutes later, the local sheriff department found her, and we could have been there in 5 minutes. That one sits ugly. That one, it's stuff like that for me. It's the ones that there are others that were bad that leave a mark, that have led to me having PTSD, amongst the other things, right? The hypervigilance, the law enforcement aspect, counter narcotics, right? Like, but the ones that eat at me, that bother me, that I don't like to look at and hold in my brain, the images I don't want to see anymore. It's ones like that where I know logically the likelihood of me or of my crew, of us getting there in time to rescue this young girl, infinitesimal, if any at all. But the fact that it was over 40 minutes later, and so it's stuff like that hits me. That
Would it have made a difference?
the likelihood of that is low. Again, infinitesimal. Might have, because kids are,
Resilient.
when it comes to drowning, can be remarkably resilient.
Yep.
But I don't know. And so, it's things like that you carry with you. I'm sure, you've got stories like that from the fire department, from being a Leo, and even in the Army, right? Things where you're like, fuck, I should have done better.
Yep.
I will say I took that lesson with me for the rest of my time in. Never once after that did I ever, if I blinked it, right? Like Malcolm Gladwell's Blink. Do you know the book I'm talking about?
I do.
Okay, so for those that don't, people who have a high level of training, who have done things for a while, they can intuitively look at something or see a scenario or see a situation and make the right choices without knowing why. They just know it. They can't tell you the thought process because there almost isn't one, because it's happening at an instinctual, it's happening down below your conscious thought.
It's coming from a place of training. It's coming from the place of muscle memory, right? You've done something so much that it's a second nature now.
Yeah.
It's just a reaction.
Yeah. So I could, anytime I had that blink moment where I was like, no, this is wrong, we need to be here, I would eat whatever dressing down, whatever challenges, whatever it was. And thankfully, I always had really great leadership in the fact that they would back me up, so I felt very lucky looking back. But that was a lesson I learned once and never needed to learn again. But it's one of the ones that eats at me still to this day. It's things like that, and the impact that happened to me with my family. So I drugged my family all over the country, 3 to 4 years, and away we go. No roots, no stability, and
well, I was gonna ask you. In my situation, I never had roots, so the military felt natural, right? The being here, being there, being not permanently rooted, for me was fine. I started to plant roots at 12, right? Cincinnati's home. Northern Kentucky is home. It's what home is for me now. So that's where my roots, but they didn't come until later in life. You, on the other hand, had roots. You were from that area. How was cutting those roots for you?
I like to travel. I like to go see new places and experience new things. So that part wasn't bad. But I always had home. Never did I not. I still to this day think of Southern California as home.
Right.
Because those are my roots. So like sometimes I'll talk with people about home and they might think I'm talking about home. I'm talking about Southern California. I'm talking about the area I grew up in. I'm talking about the San Fernando Valley. I'm talking about, a little north of that, well, about 100 miles north of that, Goleta, just north of Santa Barbara. I'm talking about, my parents' house, right? Like when I say home, I picture my bedroom at my parents' house, right? Like that's home. So I never felt disconnected from that. Now, the friends I had, part of the job is all the moving. So you learn to have, I call them transitional friends. You had transitional friendships. And they could be very deep, very strong friendships, but when it was time to move on, it was time to move on. And a lot of my friends back home slipped away the same way. I just stopped working at keeping the contact, and looking back on it, seeing it, that the progression of my PTSD, of my, ups and downs and depression, caused by the job, caused by the situation I was in, the hyper focus on doing great, doing my absolute very best at my job, to the exclusion of almost everything else, including my family, right? Like, so friendships fall away, I feel blessed that I have a best friend who I have known since I was 6 years old. 40 years I've known this guy. I almost said kid. That's,
Right.
Right? Like, I met him a couple days after we moved into our house in the San Fernando Valley, 1985. And that he is the closest thing I have to a brother, right? Like, I consider him my brother. I consider him a part of my family. I know my family considers him a part of our family. Like, we love him like he is a member of our family. And so that's the one thing. He's still in Southern California, not far from where we grew up. So again, that sort of is still sort of that anchor point for me. So, I know if I ever need to go home, I can go see him.
Right.
So for me, those roots are there. So I don't know, I can imagine how difficult and how beneficial, like the resilience it can teach you to not have deep roots like that, to feel free enough to be able to move and go and do what you need to do. But I don't know what that actually feels like, right? Like, I moved a ton all over the country, back and forth and back and forth. Never once did I not have a feeling of, I know where my home is. My home is with my family. My home is with the people that I love, right? I don't remember who said it. Someone once, the quote, the quote from Sebastian, from Tribe.
Yeah.
Home is where, when you have to go there, they have to take you in.
Yes.
Right. But I've always felt like I have a home. So I've never felt adrift, even when I was miserable at some of my units, before I got married, before I started a family, or my wife and I started a family, right? Like, I could always say, no, I'm going to go home. So I've never, I can imagine that there's a dichotomy there, right? Like, there's that not having that stability. Like, I that was an anchor for me at times. That was a thing that kept me from really, like, going down bad paths. Like, I'm just going to go home. So yeah, having those roots really helped me. And, when it's funny, the friends that I had that I kind of fell away from, when my sister and then my dad passed, they were right there. No hesitation, no reservation. These are some of them. I hadn't talked to them in a couple years. Did not miss a beat, right? Were there for me, were there for my family. So, and my family, we lost my sister in February. We lost my dad in July, right? Same year. And so I have, to this day, I feel fairly confident that I can call, some people, California and elsewhere throughout the country, and say, hey, I need help. And they'll be there. And they're not members of my family, not by blood, right? But yeah, so that's that's kind of my story a little bit, right? Like, that's how I got to here, right? After retirement, we moved back to the Northeast. It was not a good fit for us, for our family. So we decided that this was the spot for us, came here, and I got lucky enough to meet you and, work at a mediocre retail job. If there's any other kind, let me know. But without doing that, I wouldn't have met you, wouldn't be here right now, wouldn't have, started and developed a friendship that we have. Right. So, and part of that journey for me, and I'm grateful for you being supportive of me in my journey of trying to get back, trying to come back from that hypervigilance, the PTSD that I have. It took 21 years basically for me to recognize that these things were having an impact on me, and that I was damaging my relationships with my family, with my kids, with my wife. And and I mean, I've only just started, right? Like, I'm just year and a half removed from being active duty, add another 2 years, a little bit more than 2 years removed from recognizing, I do have a problem, and needing to move forward and make changes and get back to level so that I can start enjoying life and participating in things, and not having all of the negative things that come with PTSD, right? They'll probably be there forever because of the society we live in. But to at least get to a point where it's not constant and pervasive.
Yes.
Right? So it's not like harassment at work.
Right. Yes.
Remember the key word, constant and pervasive. So, yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
There we are then.
There we are then.
Right? Yeah. That's a lot.
That was a lot. Our paths have been very different.
And very similar at the same time, right?
Yeah.
A lot of paths are like that. We're all on a different path, but they travel generally the same direction,
yeah.
right? We all start at birth and we all end at the end.
Except for Merlin. He went backwards.
He did. He did.
Weirdo. Yeah.
So one of the things that, because I've been out of the military since 2013, for me, the VA was there, and I had the ability to reach out and get that help without it affecting me in my career, right? Which, had I been on active duty, had I been in the firehouse, had I been in law enforcement, it would have altered my career. Luckily, I guess, it didn't happen until after, probably because it was after. But for me, I had resources galore that I ignored. For you, it was different, right? It wasn't like you could just pop off to the VA. It's not like you could just pop off to the chaplain or your the base shrink, right? And that's something, it's still an issue today, I believe. It's more open, right?
It's getting better.
You can still, those doors are open further than they've ever been, but they're not as open, right? It can still have a negative impact on your career.
It can.
So what would you say to people that are still in or still active that are looking for that help, that, you know, we're saying find that help?
Yep. So,
but it's going to affect your career.
I have, if you're a veteran, if you're active duty or a veteran, I can point you in the direction of a resource that will be able to give you help, that will be able to take care of you. It's called the Vet Center. They are affiliated with the Veterans Administration. However, they do not have a reporting requirement to your command the way the VA does. So if you're active duty and you need to talk to somebody, you can call the crisis line, and I think we're going to put that.
It'll be in the description down low.
Yeah, we'll get that added to the description for you.
We're gonna be adding a whole bunch of numbers to our descriptions from here forward.
Yeah.
You know, the Veterans Crisis Line. There's a national number for the Vet Center.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
And other
local and national programs. But the Vet Center, for those of you that are still active, or reserve, or guardsmen, to get the help you need, you start with the crisis line, the Vets Crisis Line. They will set you up with the Vet Center. They will get you an appointment. They will get you in. They will be able to talk to you if you are in crisis. If you're not in crisis but you need help, call them. They are there for that. There is not a more aggressively dedicated group of people to getting you help than the Vet Crisis Line. And you can be active duty. You can be a reservist. You can be a guardsman. You can reach out to them. The Vet Center is who I go to. That's who I see. Now, I didn't start seeing them until after I had retired, but they will not report to your unit. The VA has to. They will not. Now they will. They are a mandatory reporter if you are going to harm yourself or others.
Yep.
Or if there has been any sort of abuse, physical abuse. They are mandatory reporters for that. But you can go talk to someone. You can go get help, and no one at your unit needs to be any wiser. So I strongly endorse and recommend my experience. I've gone to 2 vet centers. Both of them have been phenomenal. I go to the one locally here, and I went to one when I moved back to the Northeast. And the people and their capabilities, again, they are aggressively dedicated to helping you. And they tend to employ a lot of vets. So you are going to be surrounded by people who are going to understand, are going to know to their best ability, to their degree of their experience, what you are experiencing, what you are feeling to a degree, right? So there's going to be, you're not going to have to explain to them, oh, well, this is why this happened. No, you can say this is what's going on, and they're going to know why that's going on. They're going to understand you right from the gate. So, yeah, I cannot endorse them strongly enough. But
I'm actually going to be transitioning away from the VA for my therapy care to the vet center. Mm-hmm. One of the things that the VA is lacking right now because there's such a high demand is they don't have enough counselors or therapists. So the vet center right away.
Yep.
The ability to be seen more often, the ability to just the flexibility that the vet center has
Yeah.
leaps and bounds over what the VA has. But the VA is amazing in and of itself.
It is. In that regard, they are phenomenal.
Yep.
So, yeah, it's, I mean, you talk about the number of and accessibility of mental health care providers for vets for active duty. It's actually something that my wife works on, is getting more civilian mental health care providers to be able to provide mental health care to reservists, guardsmen, and active duty members and their families. That's another thing about the vet center. It's not just for you. If a member of your family needs help, if you're having trouble getting them in to see anyone because the local practitioners are overburdened, or there aren't enough of them, the vet center will see your family. They are there to help you and your family. So if somebody in your family needs help, they will see them. Children, your spouse, marriage counseling, all of it is available to you through them, and they will get you the help you need. So
Yep.
yeah,
Yeah.
they're great, and yeah, I can't endorse them highly enough.
Well, I think we've covered, right?
Yeah, I think we've at least told our origin story,
Yes.
right?
In more detail, in more depth.
Yeah.
If you have any questions, hit us up down below.
Yep.
Right. Reach out, engage. We want to see more comments. We want to see more engagement.
I think one of our next steps is getting into some more social media. We'll let you guys know when we've got that up and running. If you don't want to talk on the open comments, you can, what's the term? Is it
DM?
DM. You can DM us. When those come up, we'll let you know. But and we will get back to you, even if it's just a heard check. Roger. But if you got a question, we're going to do our best to get back to you. We are going to try to engage with you guys as much as possible. That's why we're here. If there's things you want to see, if there's things you want us to talk about, if there's things you want us to read, I'm not a college graduate, but I'll read anything if it's suggested and try to educate myself, and I can give you my opinion for all that's worth. Everybody's got one. Like
Some smell
assholes.
worse.
Yeah.
Some are clean, some are dirty.
Yeah. So my opinion may be terrible, but I'll give it to you if you ask for it. So please remember, we care about you. We want you to succeed, and you're not allowed to quit on the hard days.
You can quit tomorrow.
You can quit tomorrow. You don't get to quit on the hard day,
Nope.
right? And if tomorrow's a hard day, you don't get to quit tomorrow. But save that for tomorrow. But right now, today, you don't get to quit.
Not a little bit.
Nope. You are valued. You are cared about. People want you in their lives. I don't know who needs to hear that, but if you do, that's for you.
Yep. And there we are then.
There we are then, for the second time in this episode.
We are. So, I'm Aaron, Aaron,
I'm Sam.
and we'll see you next time.
You make it a stop. There we go.